I keep thinking about the moment everything broke open. Not the moment I found the photograph. That came later. The real break happened 3 months before, when my father looked at me across the dinner table and said I needed to start acting like a man. I was eating mashed potatoes. I remember that detail because I had just taken a bite when he said it and I couldn't swallow properly. The potato sat in my mouth like a stone while my mother looked down at her plate and my younger sister Emily stopped chewing her food. What does that even mean? Acting like a man. I wanted to ask him, but I knew better. When my father made pronouncements like that, you were supposed to nod and say yes sir and go back to your dinner. So that is what I did, even though the potato finally went down my throat like I was swallowing glass. My name is Christian Butler and I am 18 years old now, but when this story really begins I was 17 and I thought I knew who I was supposed to be. I played baseball in the spring. I had a girlfriend named Jessica who smelled like vanilla lotion and who I kissed behind the gym after school. I got decent grades. I mowed the lawn on Saturdays. I was doing everything right according to the invisible rulebook that governed our house in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. But something inside me felt wrong. Not wrong like broken. Wrong like misaligned. Like I was wearing a costume that almost fit but pinched in all the wrong places. The feeling got worse after my father made that comment about acting like a man. I started noticing things I had ignored before. The way he watched me when I talked. The way his jaw tightened if I laughed too loud or moved my hands too much when I told a story. The way he looked disappointed in me, even when I had done nothing wrong. I started having dreams. Strange dreams where I was wearing soft fabrics that moved when I walked. Dreams where I looked in a mirror and saw someone different. Someone softer. Someone who smiled without thinking about whether the smile looked right. I tried to ignore the dreams. I tried to focus on baseball and Jessica and getting into a decent college. But the feeling kept growing like a seed that had been planted in my chest and was slowly pushing its way up toward the light. Then came the Saturday in October when my mother asked me to go up to the attic and look for the Christmas decorations. It was too early for Christmas, but my mother liked to get organized. She liked to have control over small things because she had no control over the big things. I understand that now, but I did not understand it then. The attic smelled like dust and cardboard and something else. Something old and secret. I found the Christmas boxes easily enough, but then I saw other boxes pushed back behind an old dresser. Boxes that looked like they had been hidden on purpose. I should have left them alone. That is what a good son would have done. But I was 17 and curious and angry about things I could not name. So I pulled one of the boxes out and opened it. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. And letters tied with string. And at the very top, a single photograph that made my heart stop beating for what felt like a full minute. My father in a wedding dress. Not at a costume party. Not as a joke. He was standing next to another man who wore a black tuxedo, and they were both smiling like people who had just promised each other forever. My father looked younger in the photograph. His face was softer. His eyes were bright. He looked happy in a way I had never seen him look happy in my entire life. I turned the photograph over with shaking hands. On the back, someone had written in blue ink. David and Gabriel. June 15th, 1995. San Francisco. David was my father. Gabriel was someone I had never heard of. And 1995 was 3 years before I was born. 3 years before he married my mother. I sat down hard on the attic floor. The photograph fell from my hands and landed face up on the dusty boards. My father stared up at me in his white dress with his bright, happy eyes, and I felt something inside me shift like tectonic plates moving under the surface of the earth. I picked up the letters. There were maybe 20 of them. Some were in my father's handwriting. Some were in different handwriting that must have belonged to Gabriel. I started reading. The letters from my father talked about love. Real love. The kind that makes you feel like you are standing on the edge of a cliff with your arms spread wide. He wrote about wanting to move to San Francisco permanently. About wanting to live openly. About how tired he was of pretending to be someone he was not. Gabriel's letters were different. They were full of encouragement and support, but also worry. In one letter, Gabriel wrote that he was scared David was going to give up on himself. That pressure from David's family was going to crush who he really was. The last letter was from Gabriel. It was dated March 1998, the month before my father married my mother. David, please don't do this. I know your family is pushing you, but you cannot build a life on a foundation of lies. You cannot marry a woman when you love men. You cannot pretend to be straight when you are not. I have watched you try to be what they want, and it is killing the parts of you that I love most. Please reconsider. Please choose yourself. Please choose us. But my father had not chosen himself. He had chosen to marry my mother. He had chosen to have children. He had chosen to become the kind of man who sat at dinner tables and told his son to act more masculine. I sat in that attic for 2 hours reading and rereading the letters. The Christmas decorations sat forgotten in their boxes. My mother called up the stairs twice asking if I was okay. I told her I was fine. I told her I would be down soon. But I was not fine. Something inside me had broken open and I could not close it again. When I finally came downstairs for dinner, my father was already sitting at the table reading the newspaper. He looked up when I walked in, and for just a second our eyes met. I wondered if he could see that I knew. I wondered if guilt was written on my face like words on a page. But he just looked back down at his newspaper and asked my mother to pass the salt. That night I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I kept thinking about my father in that white dress. About how happy he had looked. About how that happiness had been buried under years of pretending. I thought about the dreams I had been having. The soft fabrics. The different reflection in the mirror. I thought about the feeling of wrongness that had been growing inside me. And I thought about revenge. Not the loud kind of revenge. Not the kind where you scream and throw things and make scenes. The quiet kind. The kind where you become exactly what someone fears most. The kind where you hold up a mirror and force them to see their own reflection. If my father had destroyed himself trying to be someone he was not, then maybe I could destroy him by refusing to do the same thing. I started small. I stopped playing baseball. I told Coach Henderson I was done and he looked disappointed, but he did not push. Jessica broke up with me 2 weeks later. She said I had changed. She said I seemed distant. She was right. I started spending more time alone in my room. I started looking at websites I had never looked at before. Forums where people talked about gender and identity and presentation. I learned new words. Femboy. Gender nonconforming. Expression versus identity. I learned that what I was feeling had a name. Or maybe many names. I learned that other people felt this way too. That wanting to be soft did not make me less real. But I also knew that I was doing this for the wrong reasons. I was not exploring my identity because I wanted to understand myself. I was doing it because I wanted to hurt my father. I wanted him to see me becoming what he had run away from. I wanted him to feel the same fear and shame that had driven him to bury his true self in a box in the attic. That's as much as I can share with you right now, but the rest of the story is waiting. If you'd like the full uncensored version, the book is available on Amazon. Just check the description and pinned comment for the link. Catch you in the full story.